Okay, so this is a recipe from way, way back in the catalog. I mean, I want to say like literally a decade ago. It's marinated skirt steak, and what I do here is I sear it a little bit to get it brown, not cooked, but just brown it and get that flavor developed. Then I marinate it, and then I sear it again. Pretty interesting. What you want is just a super hot cast iron skillet. My skirt steak, I'll season it a little bit, not too much, with salt, because we're gonna come back and season it again. And I just let it all hang out with this steak, you know what I mean? Just a little bit of oil. You see how hot I'm getting this cast iron? Right, again, we wanna get a good sear really quickly. Hot oil, and drop it right in there. Drop the other piece in. Keep a little distance in between the two pieces. Now, when I'm competing, the hard thing to remember is, gotta wait. You know, you've got that moment where the pan is piping hot. And if you do it too early, you don't get that browning and that searing, and then the judges say, hey, this isn't so good, see you later. So while I'm browning this, 6 cloves of garlic, finely grated, 2 sprigs of rosemary, just stemmed a little bit and chopped up, 2 tablespoons of the ultimate umami flavor, Worcestershire sauce. If you don't like that anchovy vibe, you can use soy sauce, like dark soy, and 2 teaspoons of whole fennel seed. This is an ICAG umami bomb right here. Quick, just pressing it down, pressing the meat against that cast iron, and flipping it over on the other side. And then I get a container ready for the marinade and the steak. A little bit on the bottom. And again, we're not cooking it, right? We're just getting a little bit of a sear on the outside. A little more of that marinade. Look at that, right on top again. And then you can just pop it in the fridge like this for a couple of hours. Let it cool, let it marinate, and then we'll cook it and eat it. All right, so a little bit later, we've given that steak that's been seared and marinated a little time. I've got a cast iron heating, high heat, looking good. Oh yeah, smells so good. The minute you take the cover off, you get that waft of the rosemary, the fennel seeds, so exciting. Now, we obviously don't have time to marinate when you compete, but little shortcuts to create great flavor, like adding Worcestershire, so good. And we're gonna serve it with a little salty feta. Worcestershire, feta, things that have tons of time behind them make up for the time when you're in a pinch, right? Again, same principle we used when we marinated. Cast iron skillet, roaring hot. And then we just drop that marinated, already seared, but not fully cooked steak right in there. Oh yeah. Little space, whenever you're searing, drop a little bit of that, whatever marinade, right on top of the steak as it's cooking. We don't want to waste any of that flavor that we worked very hard to get. Tiny pinch of salt, not too much. That Worcestershire really does the job. In this recipe, you're getting salt and acid from other places. So the actual salt you can relax on. Some marinated feta just to go on top. 4 ounces of feta, 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons of oregano. I know it's a lot. We want that kind of dried herb to kind of counter the freshness on the rosemary and the steak. And some olive oil, about 2 tablespoons of olive oil on top of there. The skirt steak also is pretty lean, right? So we actually are craving the richness of a little bit of olive oil. And this is just kind of like a little cheesy condiment to go on top. Sear on the other side. Don't be afraid to wipe the bottom of the skillet a little bit as you're cooking it to pick up any of that marinade trapped on the floor. So how do you know if it's done? I mean, what I usually do is I give it a touch. You can feel the firmer the meat, the more cooked it is. You can also use a meat thermometer. Okay. So as I'm taking the meat out, all right, I'm catching all that char, all that beautiful marinade. Look at that. I mean, really. Don't be shy. Any of that leftover, those fennel seeds, whatever else. Now, we spoon that feta over top. The vinegar and olive oil that results from the feta brine is as delicious as the actual cheese itself. So you can bring this to the table with the cheese on top, or you can leave it on the side, right? We just want to slice. So you see the natural grains are going this way. So I'm going to cut in the opposite direction if your meat is hot. Use your tongs just to hold it down and slice against that grain. Ooh la la. You can cut it nice and thick and cut it thin. You can chop this up, right? Put it on tacos. And you know, I kind of like a slight messy vibe of slicing it and letting the juices from the feta and the red wine vinegar go into the meat every time I slice it. And you can see this is this is rare, medium rare. We gave this steak everything it was missing. The creamy feta, the umami from the Worcestershire, the acid of the red wine vinegar, ICAG style.